Recently, Minecraft released a Mega Man X DLC pack which not only contains a ton of Mega Man X styled skins, but also a Mega Man X inspired adventure within the Minecraft world. And as your local Mega Man YouTuber, I felt obligated to try it out, so let's see if this thing is actually worth playing. The Mega Man X Minecraft DLC released on February 21st of 2023, and I was excited as soon as I saw the announcement because this is something I've always wanted to play. That's right, ever since I first played Minecraft roughly 12 years ago, I remember not too long after I punched my first block of wood out of a tree, I thought to myself, hey, this will be perfect for some kind of Mega Man X adventure DLC. Joking aside, I think we were all surprised to see this DLC when it came out, and while I was just happy to see something new released in the Mega Man X franchise, a Minecraft DLC pack was not something I ever would have considered. That being said, this was surprisingly well received as far as I'm aware, so despite being 2 months late, I figured it was finally time to try out this DLC and see once and for all if it's really worth our $8. I mean, I could buy a sandwich with that kind of money, and I could subscribe too, since subscribing is free. Content-wise, this DLC has 14 skins for you to use, which include Mega Man X, Zero, Sigma, Vile, Chill Penguin, Storm Eagle, Sting Chameleon, Armored Armadillo, Dr. Light, Roll, Dr. Wily, Proto Man, Base, and the Navigator, which to me is the weirdest inclusion out of all of these. You might be wondering why they chose those specific 4 Mavericks, and it's because those are the 4 Mavericks that were included inside the actual Adventure Mode map. You might also be wondering why there's no Armored X, since that is in the Adventure Mode, and why there are no skins with X using weapon colors, but I have no answer to that. You might also be wondering why there's no classic Mega Man despite there being Roll, Proto Man, and Base, but again, I have no idea. I will say though, this is a great selection of skins that I'm pretty sure you'll enjoy if you're a Mega Man fan playing Minecraft. I certainly do. But who cares about the dang skins? You guys want to see the main game, right? This game mode has the intro stage, 4 Maverick stages, and 4 Sigma stages, as well as a speedrun mode and a boss rush. There are even a few achievements you can unlock, which I'm always a big fan of. There are some mechanics that are a little bit weird though, which I want to point out before we get into the actual game. First of all, everything revolves around bolts. Every time you kill an enemy, you get bolts, and you can use these bolts to get armor upgrades, heart tanks, sub tanks, weapon tanks, and even the weapons themselves. That's right, you have to buy weapons with bolts instead of unlocking them by defeating the bosses, but the bosses also give you bolts when they are defeated, so I guess that's fair. This also means there are not really any secrets for you to find, which is a bit disappointing, but it doesn't ruin the game by any means. If you even try to explore outside of the regular map though, you will be quickly hit with an out of bounds warning that will kill you and take one of your lives if you stay there for too long. Another strange thing I noticed is that once you hit 0 lives, you get a game over, as opposed to 0 meaning you have 0 lives remaining, but you also start with 3 instead of 2, so I guess it's technically the same amount. But the way the game controls is a little weird and even frustrating at times. Obviously, this is Minecraft, so you can't expect much, and I do appreciate the effort for adding things like sliding and wall jumping, but all the controls just feel really buggy, especially when you're in the air. Wall jumping works most of the time once you get a rhythm going, but sometimes you'll just stare at the wall pressing jump as fast as you can as you fall to your bitter demise. Dashing is also very strange. It doesn't send you super far, and you can't really use it repetitively like you can in Mega Man X, but it can help you jump farther if you do it perfectly. The only problem is doing it perfectly is very frustrating because jumping in this game is horrible. I'm not sure if I'm crazy, but jumping in this game somehow feels worse than in regular Minecraft. When you jump in the air, it seems like you have no control over your movement, so you normally just go straight up and down. You can move forward ever so slightly if you press the button after you're already in the air, but it might as well do nothing. Even if you try sprint jumping, it feels like you lose momentum halfway through your jump, and you just can't platform nearly as well as you should be able to for both Mega Man X and Minecraft standards. Not to mention, it's very hard to sprint jump properly in this game, especially with dashing due to everything being so buggy. It's really hard to describe something like bad controls when they aren't technically broken, but just trust me when I say it's not easy to jump around at all in this game. Like, even stupid stuff like jumping up 1 block can be annoying. It takes 3 jumps sometimes to jump up 1 block. That doesn't happen in Minecraft. What happened? What happened here? But what about shooting? This is Jump and Shoot Man X after all. Considering this is a first-person shooter, something must have changed. And it certainly has, but the shooting is by far the most well-done part of this game. It's surprisingly easy to aim and hit enemies even when they have small hitboxes and move around quickly. I will say though, once every 20 or 30 shots, it feels like holding down the charge button will just randomly stop working, but it's very easy to just try again without getting yourself into trouble. The weapon system, on the other hand, is also different, as you can probably see by the bottom of your screen. Your Minecraft toolbar gives you quick access to your X-Buster, your weapons, sub-tanks, weapon tanks, and the ability to switch out your weapon. You can only have one weapon other than your X-Buster chosen at one time, but you you are able to switch between the weapon you have unlocked freely. I'm not 100% sure why they decided to do it like this instead of just treating the weapons as normal items in your inventory, but this is not a bad thing by any means, so I'm not going to complain about it. The game does not pause while you switch weapons though, so good luck with that. With the general gameplay taken care of though, let's finally check out the game itself. We start off with the Super Nintendo just like we did back in 1993, and also just like 1993, we use our charge shots to knock the cartridge into the Super Nintendo, starting the game. You guys did that too, right? It wasn't just me? Okay, good. That would have been really awkward if it was just me, right guys? There are also these strange sprite cutscenes that appear multiple times throughout the game, and I do enjoy them, I guess, but they run kind of strangely and feel awkward. I do enjoy the title screen animation though. That is by far the best one in the entire game. Trust me, I wouldn't lie to you guys. Why would I lie about that? We of course start off on Central Highway, and this is honestly a beautiful sight to see. It's always great to see high detailed Minecraft builds, but seeing one this extensive on Mega Man X that we are also able to play on is amazing. I do wish this was at nighttime though, that's my only complaint. Also, this map uses a custom texture pack built specifically for this DLC pack, which is probably something that all the hardcore Minecraft fans expected to be added, but I still think it's a nice touch that makes everything match the original sprites. Back to the gameplay though, we have infinite lives on this stage just so you're able to get a good grip on the buggy controls before you're thrown into the woods. Luckily, there aren't too many jumps you have to make here, so this level is super fun the whole way through, and it's also an extremely accurate recreation of the original stage. I assume they were going to take more creative liberties with this level design, and while this isn't exactly one for one, it's pretty darn close. Also, something else you'll probably notice at this point is that the music does not loop correctly. I'm not sure what's causing this or how they messed it up, but this is funnier than it is annoying, so I kind of like it. I don't know why, but I do. Once you get to the end of the level, we are of course met with Vile in his riot armor, just like the original game. Except this time, you can actually die, unlike in the original. Only by jumping off the map though. As long as you don't jump off the map, you should be okay. Spoiler alert, this fight ends the same way it does in the original game, with Vile choking you out and Zero coming out of nowhere to save you. Anytime an in-game cutscene like this happens, you get the cinematic bar drop paired with a zoom in, which to me is funnier than it is dramatic, but it's also funnier than it is problematic, so I'm not complaining. Once Zero saves you from Vile, you get teleported back to your home base, which is going to be your hub world. Here you're able to choose between which of the 4 Mavericks you want to take on, of course, but this is also where you're going to shop and spend your bolts to get upgrades, check out achievements, or play the boss rush and minigames. I enjoy hub areas in video games a lot for whatever reason, and this one is no exception. The only problem is there's no music, like, at all, which is pretty awkward after leaving a level that was blasting classic Mega Man X OST, but I guess it's not the end of the world. Also, Dr. Light seems to be alive, and I am happy for him for beating the whole death allegations, but at the same time, I want to know how he did that. Getting back to the actual game though, we have 4 Mavericks to choose from, being Chill Penguin, Storm Eagle, Sting Chameleon, and Armored Armadillo. Obviously, you don't get their weapons by beating them, so the boss order does not really matter outside of trying to do the easiest stages first in order to get your bolts to get your upgrades. But all the real ones know we start with Chill Penguin on the Tooterp YouTube channel. At least I do. My subscribers can start however they want. Non-subscribers, on the other hand, you better start with Chill Penguin, otherwise you're bad at Mega Man. Once again, this stage looks beautiful, even more so than Central Highway. I already like how Chill Penguin stages looked in Mega Man X, but for some reason, seeing it like this in Minecraft is very fun. It really makes me want to take this stage and just use it for a regular Minecraft world, which I assume is possible with the DLC, but honestly, I don't know. This stage is also once again an almost perfect recreation of Chill Penguin stage from Mega Man X, from everything to the level layout to the exact enemy placement. One thing I did forget to mention back in Central Highway though is that it really seems like your Char Shot is overpowered or your Lemons are underpowered. Lemons are still great for small enemies like Mets and Bats, but for the bigger enemies it takes almost 10 shots sometimes despite only taking a single charge shot. This isn't bad or anything, but it's just something you need to be aware of since this obviously isn't really the case in the original Mega Man X. This is also the level I most wanted to start exploring on, but do not ever do that, trust me, because you will die and waste a life, which is never good. Pro Mega Man X tip, do not die and waste lives. That's bad. Don't do it. This zigzagging vertical section is much more difficult than it was on the Super Nintendo just because of how hard it is to jump and wall jump. It's not super difficult once you take out all the spiky wheeled guys, but it's just really easy to miss the jump or have one of your wall jumps bug out on you. The ice physics are also fun to play with when combined with the dash, but be careful because you can easily overestimate how far you'll actually be able to jump with this. There's also some ride armor at the end, and while I do appreciate the fact that it's here, I hate this thing because I used it once and fell into spikes and died. I haven't used it ever since. Luckily, you don't really need it and you can just progress on through the rest of the level like normal until you finally run into the Chill Penguin boss battle. He has the exact same attack pattern as he did in the original game, but this time in 3D. You would think this might make it harder to dodge, but this fight actually feels easier than the original if anything. Weaknesses are also kind of strange in this game. They do work, but they usually just do 1 damage and stun the boss in place for a while, as opposed to stunning the boss in place for a while and doing more than 1 damage. The charge shot, however, does a ton of damage, so you really don't even need to use weapons for any of these boss fights, but if you want to, you can definitely set up some sick combos using weapon stuns mixed with charge shots. Anyway, now it's on to Storm Eagle stage, since that's who I always do next in the original game. What could possibly go wrong? Well, it turns out a lot. This stage is probably the hardest in the entire game, including the Sigma Fortress that we haven't even seen yet. It's not because of cheap enemy placement or bad level design or anything like that. It's simply because the jumping in this game is awful, and the main challenge of this stage is jumping. But this isn't just any jumping. Do you remember those cool platforms on Storm Eagle stage? Well, they're here too, but this time they have magnets on top of them, so you're unable to move on top of the platforms to build up any momentum for your jumps. This makes every single platform jump in this level harder than every other jump in the entire game, despite this game's easiest jumps all being stupid and tricky enough to kill you. This is by far the most frustrating section in the entire game because there's almost no way to get past it. Allegedly, it is possible to do it normally, but I had to use the upgraded buster with the ice power-up in order to make a flying platform to get across. Normally, this ice platform has gravity in the original game and just falls, but when I got stuck here, I looked up what to do, and a YouTuber by the name of RockmanHQ thankfully already made a review on this DLC, where he mentioned this trick right here. So thank you, RockmanHQ. If it wasn't for you, I'd still be stuck on Storm Eagle's stupid platforms. Other than that though, this stage is extremely cool and looks amazing. The enemies are all great and fun to kill in 3D, and once you get towards the end of the level, you even see Minecraft clouds in the sky, which I do appreciate. The Storm Eagle boss fight, on the other hand, is a piece of cake. Sure, I guess he's a little bit harder than Chill Penguin just because you do have the looming threat of falling off the stage into your bitter demise, but Storm Eagle barely does anything to push you down there, so he goes down without much trouble. With Storm Eagle out of the way, it's time to take on the notorious Sting Chameleon. This boss is a personal favorite of mine, so I really appreciate how well his stage was created. I love all of the enemies in this stage too, so it feels more fun killing and collecting the bolts than it feels grindy, which is very important because these bolts are very good and you want a lot of them, but if it felt grindy to kill the enemies, this whole game would suck. Also, these axe guys that shoot these circular things are really easy to kill. They're in Chill Penguin stage 2, but all you have to do is not be directly in front of them and just go to the side of them and shoot them until they die. And these guys give you more bolts than a lot of the smaller enemies that are actually kind of tricky. Before we get inside, there actually is this big green mini-boss from the original game. He used to guard the armor capsule back there, but since we just buy those with bolts now, this guy does nothing. Like, he's not guarding an extra life or an energy capsule or anything. You could completely ignore his inclusion and not miss out on anything other than a few bolts, which is honestly a shame, but I'm still glad he's here at all. These rock throwing enemies are also some of my favorites, so I'm certainly happy to see them make an appearance as well. But I still murdered them in cold blood, so yeah. There is also a water section to this level, which wasn't really originally in the game, at least to this extent, but I didn't mind this at all. I thought it was very fun. There is also some ride armor you're supposed to use here, but because of how I was betrayed back on Chill Penguin stage, I have no intention of setting foot in one of those things ever again. Too bad when you respawn you're given no choice. The boss fight is once again much easier than you would expect it to be. Once he uses his camouflage ability, he's actually immune to your bullets, meaning he has the best defense out of everyone so far. But he's really slow and you can just charge your Mega Buster while you wait for him to reappear. He does have the same pattern as he did in the original games, but in 3D it's honestly a little bit cooler. It is admittedly hard to call any of these boss fights cool when they're so easy, but I guess this is a problem that my subscribers have to deal with all the time, since we all know Tooterp subscribers are the most epic gamers to ever walk the face of the earth. Overall though, this stage was pretty easy and the boss fight was still fun despite also being easy, so it might be my favorite level so far. Armored Armadillo stage is up next, and this one certainly does not disappoint. We are instantly greeted by not only a beautiful stage and familiar enemies, but also some mine carts for us to ride. Unfortunately, these do have magnets in them just like Storm Eagle's lift platforms, so you're not able able to actually walk around on top of these, but they are still fun. I'm not taking any chances though, so I normally hop off before they get going. This stage is probably the most straightforward out of all of them, but it's still super fun and might even have the most replay value out of all of them just because of the speedrunning potential. Of course, this stage is also super accurate with both the level design and enemy placement too. You even have these long falls where you're chased by the big old bulldozer thing, except this time it's way easier to kill. In fact, I can't even tell if it's moving forward half the time. And since it gives you extra bullets, you might as well always kill it. Some of these jumps are a bit frustrating though just because of the buggy jumping mechanics, but I'm sure you're tired of hearing me complain about that, so I'll stop. Sadly, there wasn't a secret Hadoken anywhere hidden in this stage, but I guess that should have been expected due to how all the other stages were, but I mean, come on, this would have been the perfect place to have some kind of secret, even if it wasn't the Hadoken, but whatever. This stage does have an Easter egg at least, with the Mega Man 7 bats mixed in with the rest, just like the original game, but as far as I'm aware, this one doesn't give you any extra lives, sadly. After completing this beautiful stage, it's time to take down Armored Armadillo, which goes probably about how you'd expect at this point. It's always cool to see the bosses in 3D like this, and it makes for a fun battle for sure, but it's just really easy for some reason. You can also knock off Armored Armadillo's armor, turning him into regular Armadillo just like you can in the original game, which is a great touch. Both Armored Armadillo and regular Armadillo have very easy fights though, so you should be able to get past both of them with just the charge shot alone. With all four Mavericks finally defeated once and for all, we'll certainly never see them again, meaning it's time to take on the Sigma Fortress. The Sigma Fortress has 4 stages, but they are combined into one long gauntlet, so I suggest you get all the upgrades you can before entering the stage. I honestly had an easy time with the entire thing, but I also had full upgrades, so that could be why. The first Sigma stage is pretty short with only a few rooms, but these few rooms are certainly from the original game. This is the first time so far a major portion of a level has been cut from this game, but I'm honestly extremely thankful because I cannot imagine how hard the outside section of Sigma's Fortress would be in this Minecraft DLC pack. After just a couple of rooms though, you end up facing Vile. First you have to battle him in his mech suit just like you did in the beginning of the game, but right before you take him down, Zero sacrifices himself to destroy the mech armor. But Vile won't be taken down that easily. Without his mech suit, he goes into phase 2 and starts flying around while trying to shoot you with that shoulder cannon of his. But just like every other boss fight we've seen in this game, this one is especially easy, even if you use only your Buster. Once Vile is defeated, you've completed the first Sigma stage, but you don't get automatically teleported back to your base, you're just expected to continue. But luckily for us, Sigma stage 2 is also pretty short and sweet. You have a brief tower climb where you gotta take out some more iconic enemies, but it's nothing too hard. I guess the part towards the very end of the stage is the hardest, but you are able to cheese it by climbing up on the outside. You also have to refight both Chill Penguin and Storm Eagle in this stage, which may be a challenge in theory, but not in practice. Chill Penguin is even easier than the first time you defeated him due to having all these new upgrades, and Storm Eagle's fight is still nerve-wracking, I guess, with the whole lingering and pending doom threat, but I would be surprised if you had trouble here. Once you defeat Storm Eagle, Sigma stage 2 is completed. Though I will say, I got turned around here somehow and thought I was stuck. I'm not sure why I assumed this way was the right way to go, but don't do what I did or else you'll end up very confused. Sigma stage 3 is probably the shortest and easiest stage in the entire game so far, which is pretty surprising considering, well, it's Sigma stage 3, but it's basically just a few rooms with some of your classic enemies occupying them as expected, as well as a refight between both Sting Chameleon and Armored Armadillo, but not at the same time, of course. That's only for the X Legacy collection. Again though, this stage is super easy and there isn't really much to say about it. It is still fun for sure, but it almost feels like filler. Really, stage 2 and 3 could probably be combined into one stage, but whatever. The final Sigma stage, on the other hand, is exactly what you'd expect. You have a long corridor up to the final boss fight of the game, but instead of jumping, you have to ride one of Storm Eagle's lifts, which is by far the scariest thing Sigma could have possibly included in his starting room. Luckily, this one doesn't go up and down though, so you don't have to time anything, you just gotta wait for it to take you up there. But after that, the stage is already over, so you're at the final boss. This boss fight has 3 stages. First, Sigma sends his dog after you, which is a great fight that I think translates maybe the best out of all of them into the 3D world. But then, after defeating his dog, Sigma himself joins the fight John Wick style and wields his classic lightsaber. This battle is of course a little bit harder than the purple doggy fight, but following the theme from every other boss fight in this game, it should not give you that much trouble. Once you defeat this guy though, the wall opens up revealing the final boss of the game. I love the reveal of this boss a ton, by the way. I think that's one of the best cutscenes this game has to offer. But unfortunately, this boss fight is the easiest boss in the entire game, even easier than Storm Eagle and Chill Penguin. Unlike the original Mega Man X, where you have to ride his paws up to reach his face, you're able to utilize the third dimension here and just shoot him with a few charge shots, which kills him very fast. His attacks also don't do much damage, but even if they did, they're all extremely easy to dodge, and even if they weren't, this boss dies before you have the chance to get hit. Don't get me wrong, I love this final boss fight overall, and I think it's really fun, but it is a little bit underwhelming how easy the final phase of the fight really is. Of course, once Sigma is defeated once and for all, we're greeted with the credits, which is by far the best cutscene in the entire game. I know at the beginning of the video I said the title screen was the best cutscene in the game, but I was lying. This is why you always have to watch the whole video, guys. You never know when I'm going to just straight up lie to you. After watching the credits, you're teleported back to the hub world where you see Zero has been rebuilt by Dr. Light, which, while confusing, is at least a better explanation than he hit himself while he repaired himself. Once the game is finished, you're able to do the boss rush and speedrun modes, and while technically I think you can do them from the start, I would never dream of doing that because I don't want to spoil Mega Man X for myself. Anyway, the boss battle mode is super fun. There's a free play mode where you can just battle whatever boss you want to, as well as a challenge mode where you have to go through a boss gauntlet in a random order. Since the bosses are so easy and you get to keep your upgrades, this is way easier than it needs to be. You even get your health refilled to max at the end of every fight, which in my opinion is kind of overkill. I feel like the majority of players could definitely beat all of these bosses in one single life bar, but it's nothing that big of a deal, so who cares? It's definitely a fun little arcade mode that adds some extra replay value to the game, and I enjoy it a good bit. But now that we've taken a look at pretty much everything, is the Mega Man X DLC pack actually fun, and is it worth $8? Honestly, it's hard to say. If you're already a fan of Minecraft and Mega Man X, then sure, I'm sure you would have a great time with this DLC pack. If you're only a fan of Mega Man X and you're not interested in Minecraft, however, it's very hard to suggest this game. Sure, I had a fun time, but I also enjoy Minecraft. As far as Mega Man X's quality of games though, this would be by far the worst in terms of actual gameplay. Like, this is worse than even Mega Man X7, because at least in Mega Man X7 you can jump over bottomless pits consistently, but it is honestly a bit harsh to say something like this DLC pack is worse than Mega Man X7, so don't let that turn you away from trying it out. You might also get the idea that this is like Mega Man 8-bit Deathmatch due to having pixelated graphics and being in first person, but it is nothing at all like that game. Mega Man 8-bit Deathmatch is a beautifully made, smoothly running work of art that I really want to make a video on in the near future, so let me know if you want to see a video on Mega Man 8-bit Deathmatch. But this DLC pack is only similar in the sense of how it looks. The quality of gameplay just is not the same. Sure, it is still an enjoyable experience, I guess, especially if you already like Minecraft, but it's very frustrating at times because of bugs, not even because of like a frustrating game. Like, the game itself is frustrating because it plays bad. Really, this just makes me wish there was a Mega Man X 16-bit Deathmatch, but until that comes out, I guess this is all we have. And again, it's not completely awful. The team behind this did a great job and clearly put a lot of love into the game for Mega Man X fans to enjoy. So if you think you can get over the jumping and janky controls, then you'll honestly have a blast. But if not, I would recommend staying away for now. Unless you just really want those 14 Minecraft skins, in which case, what are you waiting for? Go buy it right now! Thanks for watching, everybody. As always, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Obviously, it was a little bit different to my normal videos, but if you enjoyed this video or even prefer it to my regular styled videos, please let me know down in the comments, because I have some other cool ideas I want to try out in the future, but I'm only going to do them if you want to see them. So that's why I asked you to leave a comment if you enjoyed. Do you understand where I'm going with this?